Get ready to explore conversations that resonate with TK Ntebe, your trusted voice in personal finance, travel, and lifestyle. The Open Korner podcast is where Africa's brightest minds, thought leaders, and trailblazers come together to inspire change, challenge norms, and spark new ideas.
Hi, and welcome to the Open Korner, where Africa's brightest minds, thought leaders, trailblazers come together for great conversations that inspire and effect positive change. My name is Tukiso TK Ntebe, also known as the Finance Traveler. I'm a host to a number of podcasts, and this is a very brand new podcast where we're going to talk about everything from spirituality to leadership, career development, and everything that is not finance or travel. I will not be the only host. I will have many other different hosts that will come to the show and where we will talk and unpack conversations that really make a difference. My guest today is a trailblazer of note. She is an author. She's a speaker, she's a career woman, and soon to be a podcast. She's been a guest on my different podcasts, my Money Adventures podcast many years ago, and I thought, what a better time to have her to have her come to the podcast where we're going to talk everything career planning and development, and of course get into the meat and potatoes of what that entails.
I love meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes, right? I should actually pay homage to the person who gave me that phrase, the word mpana, because he might just be like, hey, that's my line. But anyway, Miss Lerato Mphaka,
Hello, TK.
how are you?
I'm exceptionally well. And how are
Exceptionally
you?
well. I am great. I'm great. So welcome to the Open Korner, also known as Talk. So this podcast, unlike my other two podcasts, is really where we have vulnerable conversations, real conversations, and conversations that inspire change. And I thought, my girl is a trailblazer of note. She's doing amazing things. She's also an author of what we're going to talk about today. So let's start with in fact, before we talk about introductions.
Yeah.
In fact, let's do introductions first, then I'll get into the icebreaker, right?
Okay.
So for people who don't know you, tell us a bit about who Lerato Mphaka is.
Wow. Lebitso la ka, first and foremost, ke Lerato Mphaka. Ke ngwana ntate Mofana le Mama Lerato. Ke ausi wa Tshepo, ke motlokwa wa Manthatisi, ke motho wa kgomo e tšhitša. Go thwe na madibola kwena di hloile ke eng e sena taba le motho. So you can already tell. I love I guess I love rediscovering myself on an annual basis, and maybe this is why I was so
On an
excited
annual
to.
basis?
Yeah, on an
Wow,
annual basis, I
okay.
think we grow
Sure.
extensively in 365 days. I think that's why I was so excited to come in and talk about careers and career development and planning today, because I probably have changed my mind in the last 365 days, and even more so because you and I had this conversation quite early on in my own career, and also just after I'd released the book, which is what, 2018?
2018.
Yeah.
2018. There.
So yeah, that's me, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm excited to have this conversation.
My goodness, my goodness. So icebreaker activities, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be spontaneous and think on my feet, right?
Okay.
What are you currently playing?
In my car, I am playing Heavens on Fire. It's one of the old school house mixes because since Thursday I've been reminded about like house parties when we were young. And yesterday I had my no sleep day, and that was the only thing I was playing. Like the whole night was just old school house. So Heavens on Fire. If you know, you know.
if you know, you know. All right. Book that you're reading.
Book that I'm reading, Brené Brown, Atlas of the Heart. Oh my God. It is a life-changing book. Get that book. Oh my God.
Sure.
In fact, don't get any other book. Don't even get mine, I feel, is what I want to say. It's such a powerful, powerful book. It talks about human emotion. And, you know, Brené Brown is an amazing author. So she breaks down 87 different human emotions.
Sure.
It's crazy. Like, just imagine your emotional vocabulary growing from the 3 I'm angry, mad, and happy to 87 states of
87.
emotional being.
What other examples does she share in the book?
Incredulity
Sure.
is one, a form of anger where you have been wronged, but you don't have a safe space to say to the person who wronged you that you have wronged me. And think about us and our Black parents.
Hey.
I love you, mommy. I love you, daddy. But we as Black children experience a lot of incredulity growing up, because nobody cares if you're right. They're right because they're their parents. So you kind of start thinking about stuff like that. Another one that I really identified with and loved was when she talks about, places we go when we feel a sense of injustice in the world. So hatred, disgust, disdain. And you think about where we are right now, even as a country, just how much we do not like each other. We hate each other. And it's rooted in so much. Gosh, guys, get this book.
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 Second last one. A quote that you live by that gets you going when you are down and out. Or depleted.
Wow. A quote that I live by. It's not a quote. It's more what my mom used to say to me and continues to say to me. And she says every day above ground is a blessing.
Sure.
And I immediately turn that around and I say, as long as you're not dead, you're alive.
You're alive.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes we think about you only live once. And that phrase on social media that says you actually die once.
Right?
You live every day.
You live every day.
You live every day.
As long as you're not dead, you're alive.
Sure.
Make it count.
As long as you are alive.
As long as you're not dead.
As long as you're not dead.
You're alive.
You're alive.
Make it
Make it
count.
count. Wow. Last one. What would you say to a 12-year-old Lerato?
Don't grow up! Wow, baby girl, don't grow up. Hey, I don't know. Stop time somehow. It's gonna be okay. It is okay. You got this.
You got this.
Yeah.
You got this.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that you got, or it seems like you got, is your life. I watch your life unfold online and offline, and I'm like, it sounds like this girl has it together, So tell us a bit about your journey from varsity all the way to where you are now.
I always start this conversation with a lot of humility to say, I was firstly born and raised by great parents. And they instilled something that no one can take away from me, which is serious work ethic. So my varsity days were beautiful because neke pasa. Haholo kore hle ne ke di shapa. And so
like an A plus student or A plus plus.
I was an A plus student. I got all the awards when
So
I
you were
graduated.
that girl.
I was that girl.
Ceremony. Oh,
dude, I was
this
that
award.
man. Because, I studied information systems in a period where I think young women were still very afraid to do it because it looked like computer science. And there was always a thing about, CS and how it's male-oriented versus, female or whatever. So I was the man, actually, when I graduated. So much so that, when I graduated in September, I already had a job. Like, when I wrote my last exam, I went to work. I went to work, and it wasn't because I applied. It was because, there was a lecturer who was like, you want a bright kid? This is a bright kid. And I immediately went into banking. And as a result, I've always been in one way or another in the financial services space. I took a dip a little bit. You know my story about my little adventure in telecoms where, I didn't last. I only spent like 30 days. I only earned one paycheck, so that at least, but I came back to banking, came back to insurance. I'm still in insurance now, but the love of tech hasn't left me. So of late, I now dabble quite a lot with software. I work in an amazing, amazing team for one of the biggest software companies in the world. Something I am still... when I wear that cap and it says Oracle.
Baby girl.
I work for that.
Baby girl. So There's probably a young person or an older person watching and listening to this podcast, which is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So make sure to subscribe and be part of the community, right? Who is listening to us speaking and wondering, how did you curate your career?
Yeah.
What is the difference between career planning and career development, if
Yeah.
you will?
Yeah, right. So I mean, the first one, when you talk about career planning, it's exactly that. It's a plan. It's what is the end objective? What's your end goal? Who do you want to be in however long? And what does that person know from a skill set perspective? What relationships does that person have? So you literally map it out, this thing. Just like organizations do their kind of strategies, your career plan is actually your career strategy. You know, this is who Lerato is going to be. This is the type of skill set that Lerato is going to have. These are the relationships, or what I call social capital. And somebody wanted
Social
to kill me on
capital.
Twitter.
Really?
Because I was saying, guys, we can't give you our social capital for free. Because we worked for it. So you kind of want to map all of that. And then the development is actually getting those things done. It's acquiring the skills. It's developing those relationships. It's doing something for nothing, sometimes something for something in other cases, so that you eventually get to that particular space where you're saying, oh yeah, I made it. This is the Lerato. What I do often say to people is, it's not, you don't do one and forget it and then do the other. So there has to be a reconciliation, annual basis, quarterly basis, monthly basis even, where you look at the plan and you say, am I still on track? If not, where do I tweak? Is the plan even still relevant? Can I pivot? Can I afford to pivot? So you have those kind of honest conversations with yourself, because as you're doing it, then you actually start discovering the things you didn't know when you made the plan, and you kind of have to feed new information into the plan for it to be relevant. So I've done that consciously and unconsciously, off and on, I think, for the last 14 years, because that's how long I've been working. And I guess my first unconscious step into actually crafting my career was realizing when I was in banking that actually Mosebetsi wa Ntsengkoetsa is a tech role, but actually I was trained to be a translator between tech and business. So I need this side as well, from an experiential perspective. I need to know that I understand marketing 101, operations, organizational issues. And I left my tech role and I went and became a clerk, believe it or not. I went and became a clerk. From coding, a little bit of coding, checking servers in the morning, and I went and I started writing receipts manually.
How does that, firstly, how do you, the decision that you make
Yeah.
to decide, I am a link between tech and business,
Yeah.
I'm lacking on a bit on the business side,
Yeah.
I'm going to make a conscious decision to move from here, which is probably prominent now because you've been in the role for a few years, I'm
Yeah.
assuming,
Yeah.
to being a startup.
Yeah, right.
What goes through your mind at the time? What's the emotions like? What are you dealing with? How are you feeling in that moment in time?
Sure, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear. There's fear of rejection. Look, I've never been a clerk. I don't know the world of clerical work. I mean, I could suck at it. Incredibly. You are afraid also of losing the relationships that you've created, over the last 2 years. So I made the decision, I think 2.5 years into my tech role, that I'm done. Yeah. I need a bit of the business side. So you're afraid you're going to lose those relationships, that connection, that sense of security. And I'm a Taurus, so I love stability and security,
guys. Stability.
So I think for me, my jumps have always been rooted in a lot of fear, but strangely also in a lot of conviction that, but this is it. This is it. If you don't do it now, next year it's going to be even more difficult.
Sure.
So sometimes it is about biting the bullet and saying, if you don't do it now, it's only going to get harder to do it next year and the year after that. And you're sacrificing the bigger plan also for your temporary stability. Again, those honest conversations with yourself about, Hannah, when you left school, who did you see yourself as? And honestly speaking, I never saw myself as somebody who gets into server rooms.
Really?
Constantly.
Really?
No.
It's funny that you should mention that, because when I left varsity, I did not see myself as somebody in an 8 to 5 for 8 to 5.
Right.
Right. I knew I would be there, but
Yeah.
I was like, I'll be there for like 4 hours a day because I have all these other things I need to do. So it's
Correct.
actually interesting that you should mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we ideally all have a very distinct view of who we want to be. Whether you write it down or you don't, I think it is. I think it's there. And I think instinctually, when you veer off the track a lot, that vision pops up. It's the thing that doesn't actually make you sleep very well at night.
Mm.
But honestly, TK, I when I left school, I saw myself in a pencil skirt, pantyhose, like
Expensive
I was
shoes.
a big girl. Yeah, I was a. I didn't know how that was gonna happen, but it was not in a server room. It wasn't.
Sure. So I'm imagining a lot of people probably in their early 30s, mid
Yeah.
30s, possibly 40s, who are listening and thinking, I had this picture when I left varsity. My reality currently does not look like that.
Yeah.
And yes, I've had sleepless nights. Yes, I'm very unhappy. Yes, I'm very disengaged. Right?
Yeah.
What do we say to them in terms of the next steps for them to take? What do
Yeah.
they what do we advise them to do? Or tapping into your own journey and your own experience, what do they do next to
Yeah.
get out of that state? Because I may be thinking, I've been in this role for 10, 15 years. I'm very afraid of making change. I know I should have made this change 3 years ago, 5 years ago. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And now I'm here and I'm listening to Lerato Mphaka talk about career planning, career development. What do we say to them?
Yeah. So, look, when you have made a wrong turn, it doesn't mean you cannot replan. Which is why, when I started with the relationship between the two, when you're in it, as you're developing your career, even in your stagnation, you're still receiving information. And the trick is having the conversations, right? The trick is having the conversation to say, okay, this was the plan. I'm not a CEO. I'm not ahead of anything right now. But what is the reality of the situation, right? And the minute you start saying that, you granularize it to, what do I mean by reality? And then you say, okay, what skills do I have? Then you write down your skills, because even in your stagnation, you're still getting new skills. You're still being trained, maybe by the business you work for, or there's something interesting you're curious about. So you're still gaining skill. The next question is, how do I use this skill outside of where I'm currently working? Or can I utilize the skill further to advance me where I'm working, right? So let go of the initial vision, work with the reality now and say, with this reality, what is the new vision that I can create? And what do I have at my disposal? And if you realize that you have gaps, the next question then becomes, how do I fill those gaps? Is there a short course I can take? Is the company offering training for free? You start really making things practical and granular, like one task at a time, and then you start ticking. What we're also trying to do with that conversation is get you out of the stagnation, the rut, and get you galvanized into something, because you need to utilize your energy. Otherwise, according to Brené Brown, if you have deep-seated anger, so anger is a doing thing, and normally when you don't reach your goal, you are angry. You become angry. If you don't find a way to turn your anger into positive energy, you begin to disdain, you begin to hate other people who you see doing the thing that you wanted to do.
True. And in hating other people or disliking other people who are doing, one of the things that you did was to actually put together a guide to say, how do you navigate your career?
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about your ebook, where you shared nuggets of wisdom as to how we can navigate our careers.
Yeah. Look, the key, and I think my first chapter in the book was around self. And I explored what I thought were really key pillars. I still think they are today. And the first pillar is obviously self-awareness. You need to know yourself. You need to know yourself. I don't quite know how else you're able to navigate anything in life if you don't know yourself. And so self-awareness is key. The second thing that I talk about extensively in the book, in the first chapter, is you need to learn how to regulate yourself. And by that I mean you can only achieve your goals when you are a regulated individual, meaning don't let emotions get to you. Find healthy ways of coping with negative and positive emotion so that you don't find yourself getting in your own way. That's really what self-regulation is supposed to help us to do, right? TK, don't get in your own way because you're still angry about how you were brought up.
What
know what I
happens
mean?
in a work setting where I'm trying to regulate my emotions?
Yeah.
I have a colleague, I have a boss, I have my boss's boss that constantly triggers me.
Yeah. Right?
How
Yeah.
do I then regulate myself to say, oh my God, I don't want to punch this person in the face,
Yeah.
or in sending that email to
Yeah.
say that as per my, in capital letters, to say
Yeah.
as per my last,
Right.
how do we regulate ourselves?
So again, the first thing there is understanding the different emotions, which is why I'm so obsessed about the fact that somebody took time to show us that there are actually 87 different emotional states that we go through. And the minute you know an emotion, you remove its power off of you, right? So you're already beginning to decrease its effect because now you know that you're actually in a place where you are disillusioned maybe or you're incredulous. And the next thing then becomes, if I express my incredulity to TK and TK has more power than I do, right? Because remember, you're self-regulating. If I express this negative emotion to TK and he has more power than I do I trust him to use my emotion for good or bad? And that usually, for me anyway, it answers the question. If I don't trust you to use it for good, I don't share it with you. And that means I never write the email. What it doesn't mean though, in an age where we're now very clear that certain people get away with things like bullying and harassment in the workplace, so much so that people end up unaliving themselves. You remember the young lady, the Standard Bank SA case. It does not mean that self-regulation means you must betray yourself. You must still express to someone that I am not happy with what happened because this. Because you also don't want to betray yourself and you don't want to continue to perpetuate victimization.
Sure.
But self-regulation really is between the two of us who has the power. If I had the power, I would fire you.
Sure.
But if you have the power, then expressing something negative has an effect that could possibly be detrimental to me and my goal.
Sure.
Right? So self-regulation is always about that conversation. Recognize the emotion that you're dealing with and then ask yourself is it a safe space to tell it to that person? If that person is not a safe space, don't do it. Rather find a safe space. That's why we say, go for therapy. Find a trusted friend. But please, guys, don't take clips of us as we are talking. I had to put it out there because this is a dangerous world. So find those safe spaces. The last one then becomes, it's not always enough just to regulate yourself, right? It's not enough to be aware, then to regulate. Sometimes it's also important for you to inspire your own self.
Inspire your own self. Woo! Because when you walk into the office with your beautiful shoes, you walk differently. Your confidence is high. You've done the career manifestations. You are looking at your career plan. Your personal development plan is intact.
Oh, the pictures I take in the morning.
And the pictures that you
I'm
take in the
good.
morning.
Then you hear a kwai in the corridor.
Yeah. Then you know.
Guys, So it is important to find things that inspire you as well, whether it's other individuals, books, hobbies you love, friends that pick you up, your family. Like, it is so important. And once you've mastered those three aspects, it will be very difficult for somebody to veer you from your own career path. It'll be very difficult because you're able to lead yourself there. And that really is what it's about. If you're confident and you trust yourself to lead yourself there, there's nothing you can't do.
Sure.
Because for as long as you're dead, you're alive.
You're alive. Talking about leading yourself, you've invested so much in yourself
Yeah.
to say that I want to show up for myself. I want to lead myself. How important is investing in yourself, whether it's in skills, whether it's in the books you read,
Yeah.
whether it's in the shoes that you
Yeah.
wear
Yeah.
that give you that confidence to really show up as the best version of yourself? How important is personal development and personal investment?
It's incredibly important. I mean, it is what fuels everything else, right? So true self-awareness is your acceptance that you're a growing individual. And I often say that when you stop reading, you stop growing. When you stop gaining a new skill, you stop growing. I remember in the when we first had this conversation, I said my deepest fear is feeling like I'm a has-been.
Yes.
You know, like if people look at you and they're like, hey, o na tjhesa hore. Ke batla o nonno o re o ntse
O ntse
a
a tjhesa.
tjhesa.
current
The current situation actually is that motho enwa wa tjhesa. It must be a constant. If you really, really want to continue to be self-aware, you cannot stop learning. You cannot, right? If you really want to continue to inspire yourself, you cannot stop investing in yourself. Because when you stop investing in yourself, you're also saying you don't inspire yourself anymore.
True.
You know, like you know, when you wear the cap, like, you know, when the certificate comes, you're just like,
It's a whole different, the
hey,
euphoria of the
wena, ngwana
emotions.
Lerato.
Hey,
It's almost like you have an outer body experience
experience.
and you're looking at yourself, but you're also like, "Bona ngwana menwa." You know what I mean?
Ke tjhesa.
So it, again, that three pillar, I don't know how you can maintain it without consistently investing in yourself in one way or another. And then, yes, the pick-me-ups that are so necessary in a world where we are flooded with constant negative, information. Buy a new shoe, my guy.
Buy a new shoe.
Buy a new shoe so that when you see the rubbish on the street, you can at least avoid the rubbish and look at the shoe.
Ish. One question I have for you guys is, what kind of shoes do you wear when you go to the office? Because does the pair of shoe inspire you? Leave us a comment below and let us know how much you spend on that pair of shoes and how it makes you feel as you walk in. Whether you're a guy or a girl, we want to know,
If
right?
you say she's going to inspire you, you're lying.
So in talking about personal development, a new trend, I'll call it, that's my personal opinion. People feel like for you to really thrive and move to the next level, the executive level, is you need to have an MBA, right? A master's in business administration.
Yeah.
And talking about the hatred that you spoke about, I've seen people in the workplace who go get the MBA with the expectation that upon completion, I will get promoted to a so-and-so position.
Yeah.
What are your views on personal development, but specifically around that specific qualification and the opportunities that exist or that you can create for yourself?
Yeah, with having it, right? So look, I think an MBA is a great degree to have. Do I think it is essential for advancement into senior positions? I don't. And again, I'm speaking from my own experience, right? I think there's a misconception that in the workplace, what makes you matter is the qualification that you have. And there is another beautiful book that you need to get. It's called Who, Not How, by Dan Sullivan. And he talks about the fact that as a person in a workplace, you're a resource, not for yourself, for someone else. So you are a who, you're not a how. And a lot of the time, the qualifications that you bring to the table are the how you're going to become the who. But you're a who first. And we neglect creating the social capital to get us noticed in the first place. The MBA is not going to get you noticed by virtue of it being there. The social capital that you've built by, being open to opportunity, asking people what keeps them up at night, volunteering yourself for assignments is what creates you as somebody to be considered. The MBA then just says, oh, by the way, this is how they can actually execute this. They are a critical thinker. They have a specialization in finance, or, with me leading innovation and change. It's part. It's not everything. So don't expect that the skill set is enough. It's not enough. You're a who. Your skill set is the how. But somebody has to recognize you as a who first.
The sponsor.
Yeah.
How do I build that social capital?
Yeah.
Is it me being the loudest at the end of year party? Is it me literally licking ass to work my way up the corporate ladder? What does it look like actually building the social capital in the workplace?
Yeah,
and beyond the workplace?
Right? And I think that's another misnomer. So you don't have to lick ass in the workplace to be noticed. The workplace is such a complex space that everyone is looking for simplicity. And I'm going to tell you a secret, TK. The biggest factor is your integrity. Doing what you said you're going to do when you're going to do it, and then adding a little bit extra because you're wanting to build trust. You don't have to lick ass, because licking ass also says you're sacrificing yourself to please somebody who could necessarily be wrong, right? And you don't want to do that, because essentially what you're doing is trapping yourself. Eventually, no one is ever going to trust you. Because if you lick ass, you're licking everybody's.
And because at some point, it's going to be this one
and
this one and this one.
You are
and this
doing
one.
it for everybody. So where is your integrity? And ultimately, if I don't feel you have integrity, then I'm not going to trust you. It really is as simple as, when you say you're going to do something, do it. Do it exactly how you said you're going to do it. Do it on the time you said you're going to do it. And then do something extra to show that you care about the person who's going to receive that piece of work. That's how you build trust, and that's how you become a who. In any case, that really has been what has worked for me in my various roles across various businesses. People want to know that they can trust you.
People know that they can trust you.
Yeah, people want to know that they can trust you.
Trust is something that you work on.
Absolutely.
Over a period of time.
Absolutely.
There's no shortcut to it.
It's not today.
It's not today. It's not what you say today.
No.
It's a continuation of the small and the big things that you do and say, and how you show up.
Exactly.
Sure.
So guys, stop licking us. Stop this thing, please.
So I'm in my mid-30s, trying to feeling like by now I should be an executive, right?
Yeah.
Because society dictates that.
You want to be the youngest.
The youngest there. In your journey to becoming an executive, what are some of the steps that you had to do for yourself? What are the type of conversations that you had to have for yourself to say, I'm now ready to take on more responsibility at a leadership level?
Yeah.
And talk us through that process and what was happening in your mind, your heart, your soul, and your wardrobe.
Again, fear, right? So I never had a conversation with myself about, you're ready. I'm probably one of the fewest people I know who have as little regard for readiness. Like, when I want the thing,
you want it.
I want it, and I think over time I've convinced myself that the wanting is the readiness, because you're not gonna want something you're not ready for, really. Because
that's a very interesting perspective.
How did you even want it if it's out of your reach? Really, like,
you would not be wanting it.
You wouldn't even be wanting it.
Different perspective. Very interesting perspective, actually.
So when I want something, I often say that is my indication that I'm ready for it. Am I afraid? Absolutely. But I'm also one of the most curious people I've met. Like, I am so curious about new things that I want to try and fail. I want to try and fail. I want to try and not know so that I can go to you and ask for help. Because remember, I'm also wanting to build the relationships.
And
I'm
the
still
trust.
and the trust. And that's another thing. Like we want to posture as if we know everything.
True.
And again, that just shows that you're a bit of a shy star. You don't know everything.
And the moment you think you know everything, for me, that's also a red flag.
Right?
Because it then means that you've closed off any opportunity for
learning,
continuous
for
learning.
growth, for other people coming in
Sure.
and being a part of what you're creating, you know. So I firstly, my want is my readiness. If I want it, then I strongly believe I'm ready for it. But secondly, I also am very curious. And in my curiosity, I don't mind failing. So I do it. If there's an opportunity, I'm like,
I'm here.
can I
And,
try?
it's interesting how you also speak about raising up your hand in the book.
Yes.
In the ebook, where you say that when opportunities arise and nobody's taking up space, I'll be the girl to
Take
be like,
it.
project management. I don't know anything about project management,
But I'll
I'll
learn.
discover it and
Yeah.
I'll learn as we go along.
Yeah.
You know, how comfortable? What's your relationship with failure?
I mean, it's always been bad, right? So, and I think as I grow older, that's why I continuously challenge myself to fail.
Mhm.
When you grow up in a family of teachers, you're taught not to fail. It's a non-negotiable. It's a silent non-negotiable in the household. You're taught not to fail. You're taught to be teacher's pet number one all the time, never fail. And I've always had a bad relationship as a result with failure. But you know the beautiful thing with life, now in my 20s, I was humbled.
Okay, what happened in your 20s?
Hey, I was
Unpack.
humbled. Mjola, the pandemic.
Majora, the
I think that was
pandemic.
probably my first real introduction to epic failure.
Sure.
Epic failure. And this thing literally corroded a lot of my life. So I failed in a lot of things simultaneously because of the one thing
The one
that,
Majora.
you know, and it humbled me. It humbled me, this thing. That, you can fail,
Nah.
Like
Lerato
Lerato.
Mphaka, the A+ student. the man at graduation ceremony.
You can fail, my guy, and it's not cute. You look bad. But it then opened me up to this thing where I'm like, but if I want something and I failed so massively, what am I afraid of exactly? Because I've felt the pit of hell. In my humble opinion, it was
Sure.
my pit of hell. I felt it before. I'll never go back there again because I know how it feels. I'll maybe reach a notch just above the pit of hell.
But not
that one.
Yeah.
So I felt, the depths of darkness. I can afford to do that once in a while. Is the heart still okay?
Is the heart still okay?
So I think life does that to us, right? I think TK life. I think life. So this is why I'm like, my mom, and this thing about, for as long as you're not dead, you're alive. Life will always give you opportunities to reckon with your own self.
Sure.
All the things that you have been hiding as a virtue of growing up, youth, whatever, life is always going to give you an opportunity to reckon with yourself. If you haven't failed, wait until you're 25, you're going to fail.
Majora, the pandemic.
It will come in all sorts. But I think life always gives us a chance to reckon with ourselves.
And you raised such an interesting point here. One aspect, which is the Majora, the pandemic.
Yeah.
How it had a ripple effect in other
On everything,
areas
yeah.
of your life.
Yeah.
You know? So when we talk about balance, and personally, I don't believe that there's such a thing as balance.
No,
it just means that in this season, you're prioritizing this and
Yeah.
everything else is hanging on for dear life.
Correct.
You know? How do you navigate your the many buckets that you wear. You know, you are in corporate, you have consulting businesses that you're doing, you're reading books, you're a friend, you're a sister, you are a partner, you're all these things. How do
Yeah.
you juggle all those and keep all those balls and keeping your career or all your goals in place?
Yeah, you're right. I also don't believe in balance. I believe in accountability.
Mhm.
I think that all of us know now that no one can do it all. I want to believe that we all know that no one can do it all. What I think makes it easy for you to accept that I can't do it all is when I'm accountable and I'm upfront and I say, you know what, Tapo, I'm not going to be a good sister this month. You know?
Mhm.
Like,
Ha ke kgone.
ha ke kgone.
I have nothing to give
Mom,
in that regard.
ha ke kgone. I think again it builds that trust because when you say ke a kgona, then you do, right? The other thing is we have this obsession about juggling. I think we need to change the narrative around juggling and instead say, I have all of these different facets of me, and I want to show up the best way I can every single time in the facet that I've chosen.
Mhm.
So that you bring yourself 100% of the time to the thing. So when I am consulting, I'm 100% a consultant.
Hmm.
I'm not 50% it and 50% somewhere else.
You are here.
I'm here
Showing up for this.
showing up for this thing so that I can give you the value that you deserve. When I'm doing QA for someone's piece of code, I am 100% there so that I give you the best. When I am my mother's daughter, I am 100%.
Oh, if your Christmas content is anything to go
Do
by.
you see? I go all out.
Sure.
I want the table laid. I'll do it myself. I'll go buy the ornament. Like I am 100% there because I think that's where the true value of us being ourselves comes in. No one wants to feel shortchanged about being with you. I don't think you want to be with me. Ebe o utlwa hore, but lerato ha se lerato, man.
Say,
Ha bua le ka buka e le nngwe fela. Because now I'm busy thinking about my next appointment at 12. No.
Sure.
Come on, guys.
Sure.
Come on.
CX.
The love of my
Customer
life.
experience.
Oh my God. Did I tell you I'm a global coach? Hey,
It's on your Twitter profile. And you said that if we're looking for any kind of consultancy.
That was another outer body for me. You know, I was like, Manamusadiyo.
Manamusadiyo. Alamasiyo.
Get it! So you know they do this thing at the group where they showcase you.
Mm.
So you know they've showcased the banner in New York.
Ooh.
And my face is there. Hello, no. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hello, that. Hello, that. So
That's
there's a young person looking at your journey, inspired by your journey.
Yeah.
Not really sure how to, despite this conversation, which they should have subscribed to, not sure how to get there. What advice do we give to young Basotho people? But also because this is a Pan-African show across the African continent, you know, what advice do we give to young Africans and what legacy are we, what foundation are we laying so that they don't have to go through what we went through?
So maybe my first and my only piece of advice is you can't do it alone. You really cannot. I've never seen somebody who is a captain absolute. You know, you know the journey, you know the mechanics of the ship, you are a cook, we cannot do the things that we want to do alone. There is value in creating relationships. There's power in creating relationships. And when I talk about relationships, I mean relationships with people who have done it before and people who are at your level and le batlang ka mora hao. There's power in creating that network around yourself. Why do I say you need relationships to get you where you want to go? You need them because the guy who did it before you failed before you. And the best they're going to do for you is at least tell you how not to fail the way they failed.
True.
You'll still fail in your own way, but they'll at least tell you how they failed so that you don't do it to yourself. And that then shortens your journey to your goal, right? We were talking about this earlier. You need to have relationships with your peers because in your peer group, somebody still knows more than you.
True.
Or someone still has a fresh perspective. Or someone will tell you, maybe don't wear black, TK, maybe wear gray from now on because of like someone knows something that you're going to need. Why do I say you need relationships with people who are younger than you? Because you need to pay it forward.
Pay it forward.
You need to pay it forward so that we continue to lessen the rate of failure, right? Or at least we lessen the rate of tried and tested failure and we start opening up people to new ways of failing. That's what keeps life interesting, right? And also young people teach us new things all the time. They keep us young. Over Christmas, right? My cousin and my aunt are doing a dance. I don't know this dance, right? So I'm like, guys, where did you learn the thing? And they're like, no, they're like, our kids actually showed us the TikTok.
Hola.
Okay. So we cannot do it alone. You need to form relationships with seniors, with your peer group, and with people that, come just a little bit, behind you, for you to actually reach the goals and even surpass them. Because the idea you have about yourself on your own, spice.
6 gun.
It's crazy the power of relationships.
The power of relationships. Talking about relationships, especially for young people, social media.
Yeah.
Are we intentional about using social media platforms to nurture healthy, constructive relationships?
No, I don't think we are. I think that social media perpetuates what has already been, in society. Social media just keeps, it just makes it more visible to a lot more people. But the cultures that we all grew up in when we were in school around having cliques, there being bullies, it gets even more pervasive on social media. And I think that's where we still are, unfortunately. We haven't unlocked the power of connectedness for co-creation. Social media. But, if we could start thinking about this as a potential platform for co-creation, the narrative would completely shift. The energy would change. We would start holding each other accountable to the things that we said we're going to do. Instead, what we're doing is just waiting for each other to fail so that we can talk about it.
And as a continuation of that question, is social media from a career planning perspective?
Yeah.
I personally feel like a lot of people have this illusion that what I post online on social media is for social media, but we miss the connection to what you're posting online and the correlation between your career prospects and opportunities.
Correct.
There's a link between the two, right?
There will always be a link, yeah.
People are, I'll be on social media and I'll see people commenting and I'll be like, career-wise, the opportunities that this post may have costed you.
Yeah.
Number 2, business opportunities for those who are in business. You know, consultancy opportunities, because you could post something about a particular topic and you're applying for an opportunity within the set topic that you are talking about on social media.
Yeah.
So how then do we intentionally use our social media platforms so that they don't harm the opportunities that we seek or go after?
My earlier position around, like, if we could switch our understanding of the platform as it's not an extension of high school anymore, there's potential for co-creation here. Even the way you position challenges, because I mean, TK, here, the fact is, there are challenges. Just because I work in a corporate does not mean I am blind to the fact that there are structural and other challenges in corporate.
Mm-hmm.
If I share those challenges in a way where I'm trying to trigger thinking, right? I'm hoping, for instance, that an HR will see my post. If I say there is an inherent culture of being overworked and underpaid in corporate, right? It's a challenge. Doesn't matter where I work. What I'm doing with that is not to open up the space for you to tell me about your horrible workplace and then start insulting people, etc. No. I'm doing it to incite debate so that an HR maybe can go back into the workplace and say, guys, actually, there's a conversation happening on this platform. And it seems like young people actually feel overworked and underpaid. Can we do a study in our business to see
find
whether
out.
this is the truth, right? And if they find it's the truth, then it's up to them. But that's what I mean by the spirit of the conversations need to change to a co-creation position, not a let's hate, we are all gonna die.
Let's
No,
cancel.
let's not do that, right? And that then opens up the opportunities, because if you speak and you are an expert, right, then you open yourself up for opportunities. And an organization will call you and say, you know what, you talked about the lack of inclusion in the workplace, and we see that you're an activist. Can you come and help us create a diversity and inclusion policy?
Now
That's how this thing must actually, if we are being serious, guys, with all of our qualifications, sitting at home, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how this thing must actually start working for us. So we need to change it to that. The platform will always be the platform. In fact, you remember when the American elections happened in Cambridge Analytica, and Mark Zuckerberg simply said, all I provide is a platform for connectedness. What you do with it is human nature. Guy literally said that, and he's telling the truth. So can we change the narrative in our nature to start seeing this as an opportunity to connect, to share ideas that eventually translate into better lives for Basotho? That's how I see it.
Can we change? And talking about change, it's 2025.
Yeah.
Brand new year beginnings as we wrap up the conversation. What can we expect from brand Lerato Mphaka this year? I know there's a podcast in the pipeline. There's a podcast in the pipeline. So tell us what we can expect from you. No pressure. But the podcast is pressure that I'm putting out there.
I almost want to say you've already kind of put out the one thing that I do want to do this year. You know, contrary maybe to my other years, I am deliberately taking it one day at a time this year. I think I've glamorized rush too much in my life. And I'd like 2025 to be a slow year for me.
For you.
Not less impactful, but a bit slower. The things that I have been able to build over the years, the foundation, mentorship, they will continue, because for as long as I'm not dead, I'm alive.
You're alive.
But I'd like to savor a bit more this year. I'd like to be a bit slow. I'd like to do one new thing, maybe, and I hope that will be the podcast, because Gabriona, it's going to create a lot of traffic in my life. I just like for continuity and a bit of
slowness.
Calm. A bit of slowness,
calm. Yeah. A lot of calm. Yeah. Where do people connect with you if you want to plug your socials? I mean, I saw a post, 83,000 followers.
Oh, wow, right? And I mean, shout out to the people who make my clothes, because I genuinely tell you, nobody really cares what I think. People care what I look like, and then they listen. So we grew quite extensively because I was wearing very nice clothes over the festive season.
Sure.
So you can follow me on Twitter. My handle, Guess Mongana, it's a name my mom gave me. I hold it so dear. Instagram, similarly, Smangana. Facebook, Lerato Mphaka. The community seems to be growing quite well there as well. We do have a website as well, still under revamp, so I won't give that out as yet. And I'm on TikTok also.
I do follow you on TikTok.
You do? I follow you too. I'm like, how does he tilt the camera so that it's upside down? But yeah, that's where you can find me. Yeah, no, look, I'm there for shits and giggles. I really I don't think it's my platform. I see people who do really well on there, and I'm like, yo, I don't think I have that amount of creativity. But you never know. Where I'm finding a lot more joy expressing my thoughts is LinkedIn. So you can also follow me on LinkedIn, Lerato Mphaka. I've recently started being more raunchier. It's true, when you grow older, you tend not to bullshit anymore. You just tell it like it is. I write a lot about, CX, project management, leadership, just all the things that really keep me up at night. I try to pen those down and put that there. Yeah. Hopefully another book is coming.
Hopefully another book is coming.
Yeah.
Sounds exciting. But again, still a very slow, easy.
I just want a bit of calm.
Beautiful clothes, beautiful shoes.
I'll do a closet tour.
Closet tour. Guys, you've been listening to the Open Corner podcast, a brand new podcast where we talk everything: career, leadership, self-mastery, business, everything else that I don't speak about on the other platforms. So do not forget that I do have 2 other podcasts, which is my Money Adventures podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And of course, Escapes with TK and the TK Escapes with TK podcast, also available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Until the next episode, leave your comments below, share it with as many people as possible, and let them know that talk is in town. It's not just the Lesotho podcast. We'll be having a lot of guests across the African continent because it's time to have open, honest, and vulnerable conversations.
It's about time.
It's about time. There's nobody coming to save us.
No.
We as Africans need to save ourselves, and we can. So until the next time, love, peace, and happiness. See you in the next episode. A big shout out to my creative team, Matsoso Photography behind the lens, and of course, Visa Street Inc. on the audios. And of course, my graphic designers who design amazing thumbnails. Yeah, guys. Wow. I'll see you guys in the next episode. I will not be dropping this episode just yet because I need to bulk shoot so that consistency. My word for the year is consistency and monetization.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's what I'm about.
Mine is just calm down.
Hopefully, I'll find the calmness and the stillness in the consistency. But until the next episode, guys, it's been great. I love you guys and lots of love. See you soon. Cheers.